Welcome to the Pensotti panel radiator installation video. This video will show you step-by-step instructions to install Pensotti radiators. Once you receive the radiator, please inspect it for any damage that may have occurred during shipping. The first step is to unwrap the radiator. Start by carefully turning the radiator upside down so the top grill is on the floor. Cut the plastic wrap carefully along the bottom side of the radiator. This will minimize potential damage. Then peel off the plastic wrap and remove the cardboard end caps. The radiator can now be turned right side up. The next step is to install the thermostatic valve insert found in part bag A. The thermostatic valve is installed in the top corner of the radiator directly above the supply and return tappings. Once this location is verified, insert the valve and hand tighten by turning it clockwise. Use a 19mm wrench to tighten the valve until snug. The valve body has an O-ring gasket seal. It does not require additional thread sealant or tape. Make sure you do not over-tighten. Next, install the manual air vent found in part bag B. This air vent will be installed in the top corner of the radiator opposite the thermostatic valve. Insert the vent and hand tighten by turning it clockwise. Use a 22mm wrench to tighten the vent until snug. The vent has an O-ring gasket seal. It does not require additional thread sealant or tape. Make sure you do not over-tighten. The next step is to install the reducers found in part bag D. Flip the radiator over. Remove the blue plastic protective inserts from the supply and return tappings. Insert the two reducers into these supply and return tappings and hand tighten by turning clockwise. Use a 12mm Allen wrench to tighten the reducers until snug. Make sure you do not over-tighten. Now, locate the chrome drain plug in the lower tappings on each side of the radiator. Use a 22mm wrench to make sure these plugs are tight. The next step is to hang the mounting brackets found in part bag C. The first step is to mark the desired location of the top slot on the mounting bracket. Next, drill an appropriate pilot hole for the mounting hardware selected. Insert the upper mounting bolt and tighten with a wrench until the bolt head is about 3/4 of an inch from the wall. Now hang the mounting brackets from the top slot. Make sure the brackets are plumb and mark the lower mounting hole. Remove the mounting bracket. Drill an appropriate pilot hole for the lower mounting bracket bolt. Insert the lower mounting bolt and tighten with a wrench until the bolt head is about 3/4 of an inch from the wall. Now pull the white tab forward and slide the top clamp up to its highest point. Hang the bracket on the two mounting bolts and tighten with a wrench. Note: for the most secure installation, these brackets should be mounted onto wall studs using the lag bolts provided or equivalent hardware you source locally. If wall stud mounting is not possible, ensure your mounting materials are suitable to support the weight of the radiator when filled with water. This video illustrates how to mount one bracket. The procedure to mount the second bracket is exactly the same. Make sure the two brackets are level with each other and are spaced so they will evenly support the weight of the radiator. These radiators can be mounted so the supply and return connections are located on the bottom right-hand side of the radiator, as shown in this illustration, or on the bottom left-hand side of the radiator. In either mounting configuration, the supply connection is always located closest to the middle of the radiator, and the return connection is always located closest to the side of the radiator. This video illustrates connecting the radiator to supply and return piping coming up from the floor. It is best to drill the holes for the supply and return pipes prior to mounting the radiator. Use this illustration to determine the proper location for the holes. Once the supply and return piping holes are made in the correct locations, you may proceed to the next steps. Set the bottom rear panel of the radiator into the groove on the bottom of each mounting bracket and tilt the radiator until it is vertical. Slide the top clamps of each bracket down tightly onto the top rear panel of the radiator. The fingers of the clamp should fit between the radiator grills. To install the thermostatic knob, align the knob with the valve body and thread by turning clockwise. Initially, only turn the knob a half to one turn. This knob provides manual flow control to the radiator. Tightening the knob will restrict flow. If it is tightened completely, all flow to the radiator will be stopped. Once the radiator is filled, this knob can be used to adjust the flow to the desired amount. If you are using 1/2-inch copper pipe to connect to the radiator, you will find the copper pipe compression fittings in part bag F. Begin by bringing the rough piping up through the floor until it is about 1.5 inches from the reducer fitting on the bottom of the radiator. Slide the large nickel compression nut over the pipe with the open thread end facing up. Next, slide the copper split compression ring over the pipe with the rubber portion facing up. Push it down until the rubber portion is fully engaged with the copper pipe. Next, slide the pipe up until the rubber compression fitting completely engages with the reducer on the bottom of the radiator. Then, while holding the pipe in place, slide the compression nut up the pipe and thread it onto the reducer by turning it clockwise. Tighten this compression nut with an adjustable wrench until snug. Repeat these steps for the return pipe. If you're using 1/2-inch PEX pipe to connect to the radiator, you will find the PEX pipe compression fittings in part bag E. Begin by bringing the rough piping up through the floor until it is about 1.5 inches from the reducer fitting on the bottom of the radiator. Slide the large nickel compression nut over the pipe with the open thread end facing up. Next, slide the split compression ring over the pipe. Then insert the barbed compression fitting into the pipe until the shoulder rests at the end of the pipe. Now slide the pipe up until the compression fitting completely engages with the reducer on the bottom of the radiator. Then, while holding the pipe in place, slide the compression nut up the pipe and thread it onto the reducer by turning it clockwise. Tighten the compression nut with the adjustable wrench until snug. Repeat these steps for the return pipe. Next, you will install the white escutcheon plates found in part bag G. Start by sliding the escutcheon plate around the pipe with the flat side facing up. Next, slide the slot cover into the channel in the escutcheon plate until it clicks into place. If desired, the escutcheon can be rotated so the slot cover faces the wall. The next step is the installation of the white RadSnap pipe covers. Measure and cut the RadSnap pipe covers to the correct length to fit between the compression nut and the escutcheon plate. This can be done carefully with scissors or with a sharp razor. Once cut, spread the seam of the RadSnap and slide the opening over the pipe. Once over the pipe, release the ends and the RadSnap will automatically close to cover the pipe. The final step is to vent air from the radiator. Once the radiator is piped and the supply and return piping is connected to the heating system, the radiator can be filled with water. A helpful hint: when possible, have 2 people present to fill the radiator, one to open the necessary system valves, and one to verify there are no leaks at the radiator connections. Warning: when radiators are connected to an active heating system, water vented through the air vent can be extremely hot. Caution should be taken to avoid direct contact with the vented water. Open any valves which may be isolating the radiator, and ensure the thermostatic valve knob is open or loosened until it almost comes off. Locate the small air vent hole in the side of the white plastic portion of the air vent. Rotate the white portion of the air vent until this vent hole points down. Hold a cup or other suitable container under the vent. Insert a flat screwdriver into the chrome slotted nut on the vent. Rotate counterclockwise 1 to 2 turns until air can be heard escaping the radiator. Once all air escapes and a steady stream of water flows from the vent, rotate clockwise until the flow stops and the vent is tight. Once the radiator is filled, verify all fittings are tight and no water is leaking. Allow the radiator to heat and recheck all fittings one last time to ensure there are no leaks. Now the installation is complete and the radiator is ready to heat.